we are all on drugs right now, apart from the addictive drugs such as caffeine, which is a physically addictive drug, or nicotine or alcohol, profusely used in our culture and doing physiological damage. Our very hormones are a form of drugs. If you were to take the essential amino acid tyrosine and you were to take a teaspoon of that isolated, within 2 hours you'd feel like you're on amphetamine or 20 cups of caffeine. But it's in all of our foods, like an egg white. It's a psychoactive drug and we're all on it. We associate that as normal consciousness. The pineal gland is a small cone at the top of the spine, a small third eye, literally an atrophied eye, the third eye of the Eastern philosophies, and the single eye of alchemy called the ayin, the single eye, the all-seeing eye of Egypt, the eye of Ra. This pineal gland produces the most essential neurohormones that switches on all the rest of our bioanatomy, but when we dream. So usually our dreams are unconscious. Recent scientific evidence has shown that the release of a neurotransmitter called pinoline, which is found in the soma bush, and a sister of which is found in the ayahuasca vine, Ileana, or Banisteriopsis caapi, is released when we dream and induces rapid eye movement, REM, and this is when we start to dream. This rapid eye movement function is essential to health because it takes all unintegrated electrical experiences in our brain and assimilates them, and it takes our daily experiences and it synthesizes them into ancestral memory. Our pineal gland is, in a sense, a second undiscovered sex organ, which we only access in unconsciousness when we dream. Shamanism is about awakening that second sex organ consciously. But it requires sex education. It requires shamanistic alchemical education because it's the higher brain that it awakens, which usually is unconscious. A very powerful mind that knows how to build our body, knows how to build our bones. An incredible intelligence that knows which amino acids to extract to make enzymes, to make proteins, etc. Our conscious mind hasn't the foggiest notion of all of these terms. It's a pure baby. So our baby nature is propelled into a shocking, real, raw intelligence that is immensely intelligent and integrated. So it requires a shamanistic sex education. How can DMT be a drug when babies are producing it in the womb? And when we have lucid dreams, our blood is saturated with DMT. It means every time we're having lucid dreams, we should be imprisoned. Does that mean we have to cut off the pineal gland because the pineal gland is an illegal drug laboratory? So the pineal gland atrophies at the age of 12. It calcifies. Calcium goes into it and forms calcium crystals. So from the age of 12 onwards, there's a decline of all of these life hormones, really. We very well know the research body on melatonin and the upsets that this causes. This used to be considered part of depression and the circadian system correction. The latest data has now shown that pinoline is the true roots of depression. A lot of people think it's lack of light that is responsible for depression. Hence, you have medicines such as Prozac or St. John's wort, etc., serotonin medicine, but they found out that it's lack of proper darkness, hence pinoline, that is the root of the true depression. So pinoline was our own natural antidepressant. But in relationship to internal and external alchemy, it was now known that at the age of 12, whatever is spiritually awake in humanity, whatever bridges the spirit to matter, the third eye, the pineal gland, it begins to atrophy, to harden. So the shamanistic initiation systems was to try and reverse that, to reawaken the pineal gland. Hence, you have your bar mitzvah at the age of 12. You have your shamanistic initiation at the age of 12, a shock treatment that keeps the pineal gland as active as possible and awakens the shamanistic visionary intelligence, including the plant body shamanism at the age of 12. You have this with the South African Boiti tribe who, or the Fang tribe, who take ayahuasca relative called Tabanantha ebogein, which has a core structure according to harmaline with a different side chain. They take this at 12, and the person becomes a man or a woman at that point. They see death and they're reborn as a man or woman, and it's the same with the darkroom retreats, etc. The shamanistic technology was then to maintain a gradual pathway of the activation of the pineal gland. In Egypt, when you became shaman, you became a Horus king, because you had wings to fly. This same iconography is the totem animals of the shamanistic basins of the Amazon basin, where the shamans became the eagle or became the hawk in order to navigate. They were gradually, once a week, they were given the bread and the wine, the soma and acacia divine. But then, when they were to become married, they were put in a dark room, which was called the Tuat, the deep down under. In the Tuat, they have to face their dragons, just like in ayahuasca shamanism. You have to face the lords of outer darkness. In Egypt, he's called Sobek. The dragon, or the crocodile, is called the Mesha. This is shown in the tomb of Tutmosis III, the great-great-grandfather of Akhenaten. Here, in his tomb, is shown his own ritual, where he goes into the darkness. The people around him, the gods, are holding the acacia tree. Then the acacia tree is shown sprouting from their pineal glands. What did they know? Botanically, only in 1973 did we discover that Acacia medanae contains DMT and 5-MeO-DMT, only in 1973. But here you have the Egyptians showing the pineal gland, the place where it's produced, sprouting acacia tree. So the atrophying of the pineal gland was exactly what they tried to reverse by a special nutrition and by a series of shamanistic initiations, so that in the end they themselves would reawaken the pineal gland and produce their own ayahuasca. On a scientific level, in Sweden at the Karolinska Institute, Bo Helmstad, who pioneered harmaline studies back in the 40s, he pioneered this thought. He said, well, what about the yogis, the really genuine yogis who are years in a cave? So he actually went to India and Tibet and Nepal, selected the genuine yogis who really are in caves for years, and brought them over to Sweden, to Karolinska Institute. They were in a constant state of enlightenment or rapture. He measured their blood. Lo and behold, what did their blood show? They weren't operating as much on serotonin anymore, but they had penoline, they had 10-methoxyharmalan, which is also in ayahuasca, and they had 5-MeO-DMT and DMT. So they had converted to these ancestral memory nanotechnological molecules. The plant shamanistic molecules propel our consciousness into the overmind of nature, the computer banks of nature, the living logos of nature, and thereby the plant archetypes are really the navigating icons through these information streams. Well, first a comment on the snake archetypes of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca has been primarily used in the Amazon basin, so the surrounding life forms, the kings of nature there, became embedded over 30,000 years as a memory in those molecules, as a jungle television. The experiments were done where ayahuasca was given to Eskimos who've never seen snakes, who've never seen jaguars, but they saw writhing snakes and jaguars. What is interesting is that different plants, like soma, which also contains harmaline and harmine, just as ayahuasca does, you have much less of these snake forms, because a different set of cultures have used it. So you get more Egyptian-like or Indo-European-like archetypes emerging from the information that is in those molecules, which is interesting unto itself. But it would seem that the snake serpentine nature that comes out is a perfect translation of the double helix of the DNA itself, and that the archetypes of angels and demons is the binary code of the DNA. Most people, when they think of the DNA code, they think of something dead in a laboratory that their physics teacher told them at school as they fell asleep by the complexity and the absolute dry board nature of it. But actually, this is a fabulous code. This is a fabulous living intelligence that is able to turn on all life forms that we see, the raging elements of nature. So that's a frighteningly powerful intelligence, or a gloriously blissful intelligence, depending on which pole of the sinus wave snake they are. If they represent the positive go signals of the DNA, or the negative no-go signals of the DNA. No life, destructive demons, or go, yes, life. That's great, that's ecstatic, that's beautiful, that's angelic. The notion of Western spirituality has been to embrace the angels, embrace the good, and run away from the bad, because you will go to the bad forever. You will go to hell forever. And so that has been a schizophrenia that has judged a part of our brain, part of our life cycles, as bad, and as a result we've become more and more polarized, and we have become less and less integrated in 8 cycles consciously, because we've developed a language, a belief system based on this unbalance of polarities. White is good, black is bad, and white is the ultimate, and black is what you want to go away from. But it's neither. The point is it's neither. They're just the binary code of the DNA. The notion of telepathy, of course, has been around a long time, but when the harmine molecule was first analyzed, it was labeled telepatin, for telepathic inducing agent. And in fact, the pineal gland is able to register visual information, not just on the photonic level, but on the microwave level, the infrared ultraviolet level as well, and on the sonic level. Therefore, potentially the pineal gland and penoline with DMT could convert a sonic signal to a visual signal. This is a form of group mind and telepathy. There is a group leader. That group leader becomes a central icon that the overall genetic information gods use to steer an experience, use as an antenna, because the shaman will be navigating constantly a coherent brain state that entrains the others to remember a balanced state. Essentially 8 cycles per second, both hemispheres of the brain communicating as one. 8 cycles per second is important in that 8 cycles, or 8 hertz, is the only frequency, or the only hertz, that can pass through a Faraday cage. That's copper with a vacuum, copper, vacuum, copper, vacuum, as Dr. Puharich showed. So every thought and every energy, electricity, can't pass through that Faraday cage or through those vacuums, but 8 cycles go straight through. The implication of that is that 8 cycles rotates through another dimension. Both hemispheres of the brain beating as one means that if you stay in that 8 cycles constantly and experience that over the whole body, the starship they describe, then half of one's information content is in hyperspace, is everywhere and every when. So you are literally in contact by 8 cycles with the information of everybody at the same time. A successful shaman who is a healer, who induces ecstasis in another, is someone who broadcasts these coherent heart electricity and brain waves. So actually people heal themselves and remember how the harmonic pathway of creation in the process. They don't become the icon who does it for them, they become the antenna that reminds them, if it's a good shaman. Because ultimately these plant molecules becomes our own shaman teachers. There is an embedded consciousness in DMT and harmine that is a full living guiding intelligence unto itself, once you've gone through the initial stages. So in this sense, alchemical shamanism, you go into the body to go out of the body. You eliminate this duality of something high and low. You fuse the polarities. In that sense, one can access the binary code of the DNA, the angels and the demons, heaven and hell, and go beyond.